This is one of these moments where I really respect Douglas Murray because he doesn't just nod along with Joe. He actually stops him and holds up a mirror. And I really respect that because it takes guts to say, hey, I don't agree with that, especially when the person across from you is someone like Joe Rogan. Just watch what happens here.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, sir.
Since the war in Israel began and since the war in Ukraine began, you've had quite a lot of people who are very against both in different ways.
Yes.
Do you think you've had enough people on who are supportive of either war?
I don't know that word enough, if that's a good word.
Let's say enough people who are on the side of Israel instead of wild critics.
Well, I've had a few. I mean, I believe Gadsad is on the side of Israel.
For sure.
Jordan is on the side of Israel.
Yeah, Mike Baker, Coleman Hughes.
Yeah.
Coleman did it for like 20 minutes, so it wasn't why he was here.
No, I mean, none of them is why they're here. You know, it's a good question.
Do you think you've tilted one way?
Me personally?
No, just with the guests you've had.
The guests? Yeah, probably more tilted towards the idea that perhaps the way they've done it is barbaric.
But why do you think that is? Just out of interest. I'm just interested in your selection of guests because you're like the world's number one podcast.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think about it that way. I just think I'd like to talk to this person.
But can I just...
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
it's your show, but
sure.
If you're going to interview historians of the conflict, or historians in general, why would you get somebody like Ian Carroll? Or
Yeah, but Ian Carroll, I didn't bring him on for that purpose. I brought him on because I want to find out, like, how does one get involved in the whole conspiracy theory business? Because his whole thing is just conspiracies.
Sure.
You know?
But do you have any... I mean, there's been a tilt in the conversation, both conversations, in the last couple of years, and it's largely to do with people who have appointed themselves experts, who are not experts.
You mean like Ian? I don't think he appoints himself an expert in anything.
Who's that other dude who thinks he's an expert on Churchill?
Daryl Cooper does not think he's an expert.
In fact, I think it's everybody else is always calling him an expert, and he's like, I'm just a history.
Have you
nerd.
ever absorbed any of his material? You ever consumed any of his podcasts or anything like that?
I tried.
Yeah?
It's pretty hard to listen to somebody who says, I don't know what I'm talking about, but now I'm going to talk. Or I don't know about this, or I'm not capable of debating this historian, but I'm going to just tell you what I think.
Yeah, but that's not exactly what
context.
Daryl was saying. I mean, Daryl's point of view, however you feel about this, what Daryl's saying is he doesn't really like doing debates. He likes to do long format stuff where he can really explain his position.
If you throw a lot of shit out there, there's some point at which I'm just raising questions is not a valid thing. You're not raising questions. You're not asking questions. You're telling people something.
Do you think Daryl's doing that?
I think there's a whole bunch of guys doing that.
I
I
think
think Dave is doing that, very obviously. Dave's a comedian, but he's now mainly talking about Israel.
That right there, that pause, Joe knew Murray was right. And I'm glad somebody finally had the ability to say it right to his face. Because here's the thing. When you constantly bring on guests who push one side of a story, especially something as charged and as painful as Israel and Palestine, it's not just a conversation anymore. It's actually shaping people's perceptions. And Joe has a lot of influence. And that comes with a lot of responsibility. You don't have to agree with everything Israel does. But if you're only giving airtime to people who paint Jews as oppressors and ignore years of terror, trauma, and history, that's not honest. That's not balanced. So I really respect Douglas Murray. He didn't raise his voice. He just stood in his truth, and it landed. And we need a lot more of that, especially when the loudest voices are often the most one-sided. What do you guys think?